Okay, good morning, everybody. It's an honor for me to be presenting here. My name is Romina Cachia, and I work for the Joint Research Center. This is part of the European Commission. It is a great pity that I could not be there with you, but the weather had other plans for me. It is for us an honor to be at this timely conference as part of the GRC, because the topic of AI for teachers is a very important one, and this project has been extremely important to provide training on AI in education for and by teachers and school leaders. For those who don't know, the Joint Research Center is the right-hand arm of the European Commission that supports EU policies with independent scientific evidence throughout the whole policy cycle. So sometimes we do anticipatory research, sometimes we're doing monitoring, and sometimes we are analyzing the impact of a particular policy. It is spread all over 6 sites, and I'm currently based in Seville. In terms of what I do, I currently lead the team that is working on research on digital education and skills. This is a team that is based in the digital economy unit, and we are mostly doing research to support the digital education action plan and the 2 recent council recommendations, one on the provision of digital skills and the other one on enabling factors for digital education. And in this presentation, I will be presenting this report on the futures of technology in education that was published last September. And I will first speak about the post-digital age, then about emerging trends and technologies that have been identified in the report. Then I would like to walk you through some of the GRC work on AI and teachers and some key takeaways from the presentation. This report was published, as I said, in September, and is based on a study that was done in collaboration with Ilka Tuomi and also my colleague Danielle Villano-Rubia. The aim of the report was to pause and reflect. We started working on it in December 2022. And the idea was, let's pause and reflect and see what's coming at us. What are the technologies and trends that are impacting or will likely be impacting education and training, and see where more evidence is needing. The report is only a first stage, so let's say phase 1 of the study. It's based on anticipatory research, which is not the usual empirical research. It is based on analyzing academic and grey literature. We also involved various experts and innovative thinkers in the process. And the aim of the report was to facilitate a richer discussion on the potential impact of emerging technologies and trends in education and training, and to identify where evidence is needed. And in fact, as phase 2, we already started collecting some evidence that I will show you later on in the presentation. So the first part, I would like to present what's happening in the post-digital age and the implications for education. So we are living in what some call a post-digital age. This is a state of confluence between technology and society. So the way we perceive, process, and relate to digital technologies, taking the form of software, data, algorithms, connectivity, infrastructure, and the way we are constructing knowledge have changed in the ways we have been living in the past 20 years because of the major changes that have happened because of technology. If we look at this graph, when you analyze technology and you want to check how much it has reached, the impact it has on the market, you're normally looking at the penetration rate of over 100 million users. And if you see, for example, Netflix, it took 10 years to reach 100 million users, and ChatGPT only took 2 months. This rapid development is affecting the human-technology relationship, and while we require time to process and understand the implications, we also, at the same time, we need to take urgent action based on scientific evidence that is not always available. This is exactly what's happening now with generative AI. We need to take some action, some guidelines, some regulation, but actually we have very little evidence at the moment about the impact and implications it has for education. In fact, our society is still coming to terms with consequences of social media, for example, that were designed for a particular purpose, to communicate and connect with others, but have brought some other negative societal consequences like deep fakes, misinformation, and these are become a threat to our society and democracy. So what does this mean for education? This new generation of technologies, AI in particular, are shaping some of the core aspects of the education process, the same way the internet did. And here I echo some of the similar questions that Wayne raised yesterday in his panel discussion, because this has prompted us to go back to some of the fundamental questions. So what is education for, and what should we be teaching? And what skills and competences should our education system cultivate? And to do that, we also need to understand which are these technologies that are emerging, what are these technologies for, and whose interests they serve, because I think that is a very important question, and it was also raised in the panel yesterday, because you guys were discussing how most of the AI applications that we have in the market were not designed by or putting the teachers in the loop in the design process. So if we look at some of the emerging trends and technologies that we have identified, I will only show you a couple of them because of the time limit. The connectivity infrastructure underpinned by wireless communication is one of the areas where we expect influence on education and training. So basically the increase in data transfer speed and latency reduction allowed by 5G networks, we speculate that will open up new opportunities, especially in relation to XR, VR, and other immersive virtual environments. These applications, we think, will expand the space of learning. But this, of course, and this also was discussed yesterday, will also require digital competences for teachers to be able to be used in the classroom adequately and as well effectively. So the development as well of 6G networks and next internet will make possible the blending of the physical and the digital world. This is a concept that has been with us, I think, for 20 or 25 years. In this book, a famous book by Benedict, trying to write about the architecture of what was called then the virtual reality. And now again, this term is very popular. And now we are seeing actually this becoming a reality, and this is interesting for education because we're starting the connection of cognition, space, and action in new ways, because of the cyber-physical possibility. And simulated environments and XR application will allow other type of learning situation to take place. We have identified, for example, the die situation, where you have dangerous, impossible, counterproductive, expensive, that will allow this kind of learning to take place without actually, for example, a medical operation, without the real safety risks that takes place. Datafication of education will keep gaining ground across all levels of education. So on the one hand, we see that commercialization of education, so companies seeking to exploit data-rich business model. This is there already, but this will increase even more. But then on the positive side, we also speculate that beyond data on learning outcomes, credential and statistical data, we start to see data on the learning itself. So this kind of new learning analytics will allow the teachers to see in real time how students are learning. Again, this will require new expertise from teachers, because they would need to also understand how this data could be used for their own advantage for teaching. But this is interesting because instead of just recording the outcomes now, we will now be recording the learning process. And this will hopefully allow us to improve student engagement and also learning development and attainment. Of course, artificial intelligence was one of the technologies that we have identified that will have a major impact in education. And this is the topic of this conference. AI in education has two components. This was also mentioned yesterday. So teaching and learning with AI, also known as AIED, and teaching and learning about AI, as known as AI literacy, no? Until recently, AI in education has mainly relied on knowledge-based AI. So this is opposing to machine learning approaches that we are seeing with the generative AI now, which I will explain later. So these are examples of knowledge-based AI is an intelligent tutoring system where you have the possibility to have a personalized learning that has been supported by a human expert. So the human expert has defined the individualized sequencing and spacing of content to be mastered. So here we see a human in the loop, no? And in most of the current reports on AI in education that you can read, there is a strong recommendation for humans to remain in the loop at every phase. So at AI evaluation, adoption, and implementation, no? Maintaining the human agency will ensure that AI supplements, but not replace, human educators or decision makers. So constructivist pedagogies, where basically students can construct their own knowledge through experience and activities, will be incorporated in AI system that will be promoting active engagement and critical thinking. And I think the example that was given yesterday of the Texas school, very much based on a Montessori kind of pedagogical approach, where you have a guide instead of a teacher, and you are taught by an AI system, but then the teacher is there to guide you and to help you define your learning objectives, and to also see what kind of knowledge at the moment sparks your curiosity, you know. But what we have seen in the past months, no, since a year ago, even a bit more, no, since November of 2022, is that data-driven AI, so based on large language models, really have predominantly taking the space of AI, no, and these are increasingly widely used in education, and this is why they have become a really important discussion for education. So, as I said, this generative AI has created huge debates now because such programming can now mimic and sometimes even outperform humans at certain tasks, no? But let us not forget, as it was mentioned yesterday, that the claim that AI is intelligent, of course, undermines the social and emotional aspect of learning. Because although generative AI can mimic intelligent behavior, it lacks consciousness and real understanding, no? The way a large language model operates is that it is predicting the next word that's coming if it's text generative AI, but it doesn't have the deep knowledge or the nuanced and complex thinking of human intelligence. Of course, generative AI has great potential for enhancing learning, for example, through, and there were various examples given yesterday. Examples are personalized learning, adaptive testing, adjusting the difficulty level and assessment content per student, writing assistant, translation, as well. It can be used to do presentations, to generate ideas, synthesizing information, etc. But of course, we have there has been various concerns that has been raised in terms of risks, bias, manipulation, and malicious use. Here, I would like to highlight an example that took place here in Spain last year in 2023, where some minors, 14-year-olds, took some photos from Instagram. Some boys took some photos of girls from Instagram and then put them through a generative AI program. And the photos then could allow you to remove the clothes of these girls, and then they were sharing the photos of naked friends, no, from school. And now we are in a situation where parents and prosecutor are even questioning what time and offense should be prosecuted, because there is not a legal framework that is dealing with this kind of technology, no? It's very important to highlight that these technologies are not designed for educational purposes and are used by minors whose cognitive and socio-emotional abilities are still in development. And this is something which is interesting, is that they have been released in the public space without any validation, checks, or regulation. And because there are many teachers in the room, that any textbook for education goes through a big range of criteria. No, it is vetted across criteria in terms of accuracy, content, age, appropriateness, if it's the right historical context, relevance, for the pedagogical process, before it is actually published and used by a school. No, and now we are using technologies that have gone through, they have not gone through any validation or checks or regulation. The integration of AI systems now with the human learning process makes agency a central concept in education. So agency is understood as a decision-making process, the freedom and control in determining action. I give you an example given by Dana Boyd, where she gives this example of a pilot, Sullenberger III, who in 2009 was in a plane and had to take a decision. He couldn't land at the airport. Then the traffic controllers, monitors, and computing system were telling him to land somewhere else. And as well, his own machine was telling him to land somewhere else. But he took agency of the situation and decided to land at the Hudson River successfully. And this is an example where a pilot who has not been skilled on the job because of AI could take responsible action, and in the end, very successfully, but this is because problem with AI now, and this is as well the fear in education now, that because it can do things for you, you are not able to learn certain processes and certain knowledge that is basic, and then when you need to take agency, you cannot, because you are basically don't have the skills and ability to do so. Something that is interesting is the fact that when you look at the large language models that are being developed now, you see that in 2022, only 3 were developed by academia and 32 were developed by industry. So this is a small number of large firms, that are basically dominating the market. And this is because training foundation models require large amounts of data, computing power, and only few organizations can afford that, And the competition is so fierce that, in fact, the AI engineers last year have even asked for a pause in development because they don't know still the risks that this technology can have on us, So while economic cost of the developing the state-of-the-art foundation model is very high for small startups, but when you compare it with the cost of education, it is low. So a possibility is that if we would like to develop some AI, generative AI models that could be used for education, perhaps this could also be funded by public, not to let only the private sector lead. And as well, this is another data piece from the Artificial Intelligence Index report. And you can see that the people studying AI, so this is a result on students completing their PhDs in AI. You can see that 65.44% are going to the industry. 28.1 are going to academia, but only 0.67 are going to the government. So this means that there are few experts on the safety side of this equation, and even fewer operating with real independence outside of the commercial models. Now I would like to walk you through some of the work that the JRC is currently doing in the context of AI. So the first study is this Gen I, perception and use of generative AI. So when we're doing as I explained before, when we're doing the report, we started the report in December 2022. And in February 2023, we already had a meeting and we said, okay, we've already identified one technology that we could already start collecting data on because generative AI was so transforming everything and creating so many issues and discussion in education that we decided that this is an area that we would like to study. The problem we have at the moment with generative AI is, and that I think was raised yesterday as well by Wayne, is that there is very limited evidence, large scale evidence. So evidence there is, but not large scale, that is showing us the impact of generative AI. So here in this study, what we are trying to do is to understand the perception and use of generative AI. So we want to understand to what extent generative AI is now entering the pre-service training and continuous professional development of teachers, how generative AI is affecting the work of teachers, and how it will impact in some of the compulsory educational subjects. So this will be across different subjects, and how as well it is the impact in compulsory education system across diverse educational systems in Europe. It is a study that we are doing in 6 member states, even though there are 5 there, but we are finalizing one final contract with another country. So Germany, Estonia, Spain, Finland, and Ireland, and another country. And we'll be doing in-depth interviews with policymakers, in-depth interviews with teacher educators in various subjects, and then focus groups with school leaders, secondary education teachers, and as well students. Then we are doing another study on the impact on critical thinking and problem solving. So this is an intervention we are doing at the schools with students, but we're also doing workshop with teachers. And here the study will be in 3 international schools. And basically want to understand students' attitudes towards large language models and as well the teachers' attitude. And it was very interesting because last Wednesday, just before I was supposed to take the plane, we had one intervention in one of the schools. And one of the teachers told us something that I thought was very interesting. It's a maths teacher. And he said, actually, my role has now changed because he said in the past 5 years, I'm teaching less content and more how students should be using technology to actually get the right content. No? And he said, more and more, I'm worried that my role as a teacher will vanish. No? And this is another quote that we got from another school. So where a teacher said, large language model tools seem already technically effective in the assessment of students' essays. However, we know that they do not have understanding. How does this affect the quality of assessment? I can tell you that the discussions we had with the teachers were really interesting. So we have developed an interface where they answer some questions, and then some of the questions that they cannot answer, they can use a generative AI tool that is linked to a large language model. And we also want to see how they are using what type of prompts they use to get to the knowledge that they want. And we do the same with students. Then, as it was mentioned by my colleague Alan yesterday, DigComp 2.2, that was published in 2022, the update of DigComp included various AI examples. This is a resource used by 27 member states that allows citizens to know where they are in terms of digital competence, but is also used by various educational bodies to test, for example, digital competence, or to assess digital competence, or to certify digital competence. This version of DigComp has 259 examples on knowledge, skills, and attitudes, 34 of which relate to AI. You can go to Annex A2, where you have as well 73 examples grouped around what AI systems do, how do AI systems work, as well as the interaction and ethics of AI, amongst others. No? We are now working on the next phase of DigComp, so there will be a new DigComp in 2025. And now we are working on establishing indicative learning outcomes. And in fact, we have a call open where we are asking member states to actually submit any synthesis they have, not any synthesis, we will do the synthesis, sorry, any work that they have done already on learning outcomes based on DIGCOM, or even any other framework, local or national framework. That is the link. And in any case, if you cannot read the link, you can also drop me an email after the presentation. This submission is open until the end of February 2024, and I can also assure you that AI is a major topic that is being considered in this new version of DIGCOMP. As well as was mentioned yesterday by Alan, we have Selfie and Selfie for Teachers. These are the tools that have been developed by the European Commission to enable digital transformation. So Selfie is allowing schools to self-reflect on the digital capacity of schools, and this allows schools to improve, because they do a self-reflection, that they do an action plan, and then take again the self-reflection. And Selfie for Teachers is another tool specifically designed for teachers, and this is allowing teachers to enhance and improve their digital competence. And 3.5 of Selfie for Teachers is actually dealing with emerging technologies. So there you can see as well some items that we are using in the self-reflection. Okay, some final takeaways from this presentation. So learning in a knowledge society, this is a major policy challenge because we need to harness the potential of the new emerging technologies, but of course without compromising the well-being of students and educators. We would like to see more interlinking of policies, because to adapt to these changes, a confluence and a holistic approach to policy, including education, digital, environmental, and industrial, is important. So measures to bring together policy stakeholder and industry is important. And yesterday as well, it was mentioned that it's important as well to include the teachers, for example, in the loop, because if you're trying to develop a policy about regulation, I think it's really important to include the educational stakeholders. And development of AI should be aimed for education, should be designed exactly with educational stakeholders. The way technological innovations are implemented in education need to respect EU values, as well as high quality access and human-centric AI. So the Digital Education Action Plan, that is the main objective now, to ensure high quality education access for all. And this was also a major priority in the 2 council recommendations that were mentioned yesterday and I mentioned earlier on. And in fact, the AI Act is already one step towards ensuring the human-centric AI. And as well, we have seen the work that has been done by the Digital Education Hub, by the AI Squad that was also mentioned yesterday, that is giving a lot of input to ensure that the AI we are producing is ensuring human-centric AI and has good implications for education. We cannot ignore the environmental impact of these digital technologies, so this is important to mention. And as I mentioned before, human agency is fundamental. We need to be able to make informed decisions on the activities that we could delegate and the ones that we should retain. And finally, some future implications. As was mentioned yesterday, evidence as research is fundamental. There's limited scientific evidence on the impact of emerging technologies on students' cognitive and socio-emotional skills. For example, we're also doing a study now on digital well-being to try and understand how these technologies affect the well-being of students. And we also need large-scale research because at the moment there is evidence, but in smaller kind of research. But of course, as you know, large-scale research requires large funding, and sometimes you need as well longitudinal studies to understand the impact now of these technologies. there is, again, like I said before, limited large-scale research showing how generative AI is affecting education. In terms of data, the growing data on education needs ethical handling, especially to protect children's rights and as well embrace EU values. And we also need transparency on how educational platforms providers operate, no? So we have many educational collaborative platforms and learning environment that are used in Europe, but actually belong to non-European companies. And of course, this cannot be ignored. In terms of ethical use, establishing ethical use of new emerging technologies and also the bias. So we have seen the examples of Spain. Many of those students did not know the implications that their actions had. So many people could be using these AI applications, especially students, no, without knowing that they are doing something that is ethically wrong or morally wrong, no. So I think it's important that education plays a big role there, no? And of course, equal access to these technologies. So before I mentioned next generation technologies, VR, XR, these as well are, even though the cost has been lowered, but still they are quite expensive, and not all schools can afford to have them in their schools. So we have to be careful not to increase inequalities now and increase the digital divide. And as I mentioned before, no, we could also consider some publicly funding, in member states, for example, for some emerging digital technologies, because this will allow us to make sure that they are aligned with the curricula and as well offer open, free and open access to teachers and students, like it was mentioned yesterday, training is fundamental, because to get educators more comfortable with using AI and other emerging technologies, generative AI, they need to understand its potential for education. They need training on it and the time to use the technology as teachers and also as learners. In the intervention we did on Wednesday, it was with 20 teachers, and only 5 or 4 had used generative AI for their schooling. The others told us, I had never used it because I could not understand the potential it has. I'm actually a little bit scared because I think it could have some privacy issues, for example. So this is something that was even mentioned yesterday. Regulation is fundamental. It is essential for the safety of minors and as well their privacy. And we cannot leave this responsibility to schools and teachers, like it was mentioned yesterday, no? So in this respect, the AI Act is already a very important step towards this direction. There is a need for the educational sector to define its own terms on how it wants to vet and validate these new complex AI technologies and how they are used in formal education, no? And finally, for me, I did a study in COVID-19 and the impact it had now on teaching and learning. And what we found that education is rooted in social interaction. All the students that we have interviewed told that they wanted to go back to school, because education has a crucial role in community building and social skills development. As was mentioned yesterday, it's not just the teacher transferring knowledge from the teacher to the student. There is so much more, to education, and we need to advocate for an education that is able to take advantage, of these emerging technologies, but on its own terms, and also which is predominantly human. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm here for any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Do you have any question? The room? Yes. I don't know if the connection is direct or you have to repeat the question. I think, Lina. Yeah.
Romina, could you please confirm me that you can hear the questions from the audience?
We'll give you a question and she will repeat it directly to Romina.
So yes, because I cannot hear.
I found the point interesting where you said that
if we just rely on artificial intelligence and then the pupils, so we don't learn stuff anymore because artificial intelligence can do it, and then the pupils will have to do it in some situation. You mentioned the example with the pilot that landed on the Hudson River. And then we have a problem. So I was wondering, what is your solution to that?
Yes. Do I take more question or answer?
Is there some more question? Answer?
Okay.
No.
Yeah, so the solution is definitely because look, this is also not only for education but also for the employment sector. This is as well a discussion we have here at the GRC with the people working in the employment sector. Basically, what you cannot do is that an AI technology replace some fundamental knowledge. In education, I think this is very unlikely to happen, but there might be some shortcuts that students start. So in the formal education system, I don't expect that to happen because there is always the teacher in the loop, except for the Texas school that was mentioned yesterday, but there is always, I think at the moment, I don't see this happening. There's a curricula that the teachers are following, etc. But it could happen in informal learning settings, So when the students are at home, for example, I see my son doing this. He has a presentation to do. He goes and starts copying and pasting, and sometimes use generative AI to do his work, and because the teacher did not tell him not to use it, he's not using. So basically, the knowledge that you gain when you are preparing a presentation, it's not just that you read something, but you process that information, and as well you make an argument around it. That is something that could be lost, and this is a little bit with what would be in the employment sector as being the skill on the job. So the moment that something is being automated and you are not able to do that, the minute you are being asked to do it, you don't have the knowledge anymore because you have not done it for 5 years. It's not that you don't know how to do it, it's because you have not done it for 5 years, so you're not even updated, on the knowledge. So the same thing with students, not to allow these technologies to basically replace certain knowledge that needs to be given by teachers. I hope that answers your question.
No more question? Sorry.
Yes, thanks, Romina, for this amazing presentation. And I will read a lot of interest this upcoming work on problem solving and creative and critical thinking. And I wanted to maybe to know a little bit more about this kind of study, about how in this type of studies in which there's this critical thinking competencies and problem solving, what is the role of teachers in this process? Because maybe for these transversal competencies is the relation between the teacher, the AI system, and the learners is triadic system that maybe needs to be explored as a system in which we can support learners to develop these aspects, and maybe also about how creativity is maybe within problem solving or maybe not. Then just a curiosity about this upcoming study.
Thank you. Yeah, in fact, the role, I think, of the teacher remains fundamental. So I think this is also a topic that's coming out in the conference now. I have also studied creativity in the past, and actually the way to have it as a transversal skill, actually it requires a lot of effort from the teacher to ensure that creativity is there in perhaps not a very obvious way, but in another way where it is really integrated in the process now. And in fact, in one of the schools that we are intervening, they even told us that oh, because of this generative AI now, and it's a school with a very high culture of teaching critical thinking, yeah. And they told us, but they are even very, very concerned because now they already see students that are parroting what generative AI system, a large language model system gave them. And this is what they present in the class in a presentation, for example. So they said now what we are doing is that instead of allowing them just to do the presentation, then they switch off the presentation and they ask them to talk about the topic now. So there you really need to have integrated the knowledge to be able to be, and then they have the teacher asking them questions to critically engage with the topic. So this is an example of one school now that is taking a very active decision to ensure that, because it's a school that has based on critical thinking, to continue doing that irrelevant of the developments that are taking place. So as I said, for me, the role of the teacher is fundamental. We will keep you, I will hopefully have some results by April of the study that we will publish. So yeah, I will also put it on my LinkedIn when the article by my colleagues, Vicky and Andrea, are working on this, will be published. Thanks.
Hello, thanks a lot for your presentation. I thought it was very interesting when you made the distinction between knowledge-based AI and data-driven AI. And I think even when we talk about ChatGPT, the big breakthrough was when they kind of introduced the human input into the equation. And then you talked about how important it is that the teacher still gives this human input when we talk about education. But in my opinion, I think if we look at it a bit more long-term, and we talk about AI in education, like it will be the student data that will really make a difference if we can use AI to really improve education in general and use it as learning assistant. Do you already see initiatives that go in that direction and try and collect the student data to inform the AI to help the teacher in that aspect? I know there's apps that like Khan Academy and stuff like that start those initiatives. And I was wondering if you're already seeing things like that happening in the field.
Yeah, this is in fact one of the speculations we make now, that there will be more data collected in real time. I cannot give you an example right now, but this is what probably will be a major thing. Then as well, there is issues of privacy, because every time that data is collected in these large language models, for example, it is teaching the teaching the large language model to work in a different way. So yeah, the answer is I cannot think of a specific example where this is being done in a specific app. But yeah, this is the speculation we'll make, that, like you said, that student data will actually be, because it will be in real time, you could actually be used to inform the learning process and also engage students. So you can see that, I know definitely that we had done a study in China, and in China there was some examples that were already being used in this way. I will not go into the article implications there, because not all of them had perhaps the data privacy in the way that in Europe we understand it. But we were given examples like that, where actually the teacher could already see in real time how the students are engaged. Sometimes they were also used to control, so this is not the way we hope it will go in Europe, but more to engage students and to ensure that what the teacher is trying to teach is being is what the students are also learning.
Hello, thank you very much for your presentation. You are European-centered. I was wondering if you had perhaps some insights on how all the questions you're working on might be treated differently in other countries. I was thinking of China. They have different ethical approaches, let's say. So I don't know how, if you're interested in that as well, and how it might perhaps inform European policies.
Thank you for that question. In fact, as I said, we did a study around 4 years ago, I think, about China, because we're really interested how different educational applications were being used in China. And we had a colleague that was based in China, and it was very interesting what's being developed there. Of course, this is a very different culture. So one of the things, for example, was that when they develop a new technology, they go in a town to see if it works. And then if it works, they just scale it up. This would never happen, something like, but then if it doesn't work, they just ignore it and do something else, you know? So it's not tested before, it's just put already into practice. These are things that will not be allowed in Europe, luckily, no, because we have ethical considerations that are very important for the EU values here. But at the moment, we are not looking at any other countries, at least my team. There might be some other teams that are doing so. But definitely it is something that actually, for me, it also raises curiosity, you know, how other countries outside EU are integrating AI, and what we can learn from them and what we should avoid. So yeah, I will take note of that. Thanks.
My question goes in the same direction, and soon we will have this AI Act. And my question is, what do you think? What kind of guidelines we'll find in this act concerning education?
Yeah, so this is something that we actually start to study now. What are the implications of digital legislation for education? This requires more research at the moment. Of course, the AI Act has taken into account the educational sector, but it requires a little bit more research to understand the implications, because there might be some nuanced implications that we also not seeing at the moment. So yeah, some research will be done in this direction. So yeah, that's a very good point.
Thank you very much, Romina, and thanks for this great presentation, full of questions, full of remarks, and who gave us a lot of things to think about. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.